We are all different expressions of the same universal spirit. For centuries, humanity has sought to understand the nature of existence through two seemingly divergent paths. On one hand, the path of science, rigorous, empirical, rooted in the objective measurement of the material world. It gave us the laws of motion, a clockwork universe that was predictable and solid. On the other hand, the path of spirituality, intuitive, experiential, exploring the inner landscapes of consciousness, meaning, and the transcendent. It spoke of unity, of a reality beyond the senses, of a fundamental connection to the cosmos. These two great traditions, the objective and the subjective, were long considered fundamentally incompatible, occupying separate domains of human inquiry. Science dealt with the how, while spirituality grappled with the why. But at the dawn of the 20th century, a revolution began to stir in the heart of physics itself, a revolution that would challenge the very foundations of our material reality. The latest results of quantum mechanics seemed to blur the previously sharp boundary between science and spirituality. This new science, born from the study of the infinitesimally small, revealed a world that was anything but solid or predictable. It was a world of shimmering probabilities, paradoxes, and profound strangeness. These fields, until recently, were treated as separate domains. But recent developments reveal fascinating overlaps between these two areas. The pioneers of this new frontier, visionaries like Niels Bohr, Werner Heisenberg, and Erwin Schrödinger, were themselves struck by the philosophical implications of their own discoveries. They found themselves using language that echoed the ancient wisdom of Eastern mystics to describe the bizarre behavior of the subatomic world. A bridge was being built, not of steel and stone, but of ideas and insights, connecting the outermost reaches of scientific discovery with the innermost depths of spiritual experience. Perhaps the most profound of these discoveries is the phenomenon known as quantum entanglement. Albert Einstein, unsettled by its implications, famously called it spooky action at a distance. Imagine two particles, born from the same event, forever linked in a mysterious quantum embrace. They can be separated by vast distances, across a laboratory or even across the galaxy. Yet they remain a single, unified system. The moment you measure a property of one particle, you instantly know the property of its distant twin, as if information travels between them faster than the speed of light. This is where the language of the physicist begins to sound like the language of the mystic. The principle of unity in spiritual teachings is reflected in quantum entanglement, where particles remain connected regardless of distance. For thousands of years, spiritual traditions have spoken of an underlying oneness. In Buddhist philosophy, the metaphor of Indra's net describes a cosmic web of infinite jewels, each one reflecting all the others. Hindu scriptures speak of Brahman, the ultimate indivisible reality from which all things emerge. Entanglement provides a stunning scientific parallel to this ancient wisdom. It suggests that the universe is not a collection of separate objects, but a deeply interconnected, non-local whole. The separation we perceive may be an illusion, a product of our limited perspective. The strangeness does not end there. Quantum mechanics introduces another radical concept, the principle of superposition. Before a quantum particle is measured, it doesn't exist in a single definite state. Instead, it exists in a cloud of probabilities, a superposition of all its potential states at once. It is only when an act of observation occurs that this wave of potential collapses into a single definite reality. The particle is forced to choose one state. This is a staggering revelation. The act of looking at something changes what is being looked at. The observer is not passive, but an active participant. This idea resonates deeply with many philosophical and spiritual teachings that emphasize the power of consciousness to shape our experience. Concepts like superposition and wave-particle duality show remarkable commonality with philosophical and spiritual teachings. This leads us to another central paradox: wave-particle duality. Depending on how you set up your experiment, a fundamental entity like a photon can behave either as a localized particle or as a spread-out wave. It is not one or the other. It is somehow both, simultaneously. This embrace of paradox is a hallmark of mystical thought. While classical logic is built on an either-or foundation, many spiritual traditions are comfortable with both and thinking. They speak of the world as being both form and formless, being and non-being. Wave-particle duality presents science with its own koan, forcing us to accept that reality can be paradoxical and multifaceted. Finally, let us look at the quantum concept of empty space. In classical physics, a vacuum is nothingness, but in quantum field theory, the vacuum is anything but empty. It is a seething, vibrant plenum of potentiality, a dynamic sea of energy from which virtual particles spontaneously emerge and then disappear. This scientific vision of a fertile void finds a powerful echo in the spiritual concept of emptiness. In Buddhism, it is shunyata, a dynamic void pregnant with all possibilities. In Taoism, it is the wuji, the uncarved block of pure potential. This is not a nihilistic abyss, but the womb of all creation. The parallels are undeniable. This convergence does not mean that science has proven spirituality. Rather, it suggests that our two most powerful modes of inquiry are finding a common ground to describe the deepest mysteries. We are perhaps standing at the threshold of a new synthesis, a more holistic understanding that honors both the rigor of science and the wisdom of the human spirit, leading us toward a more complete vision of our place in this magnificent, mysterious universe. For centuries, our understanding of the cosmos was elegantly simple, governed by a framework of profound order and predictability. Newtonian physics taught us that everything is separate, predictable, and follows deterministic laws. The universe was like a great machine, a magnificent clockwork set in motion by a divine yet distant watchmaker. Sir Isaac Newton, with his laws of motion and universal gravitation, handed humanity the keys to this mechanical kingdom. Every action had an equal and opposite reaction. Every effect had a clear and traceable cause. The planets wheeled in their orbits with the precision of celestial gears. The world was solid, tangible, and reassuringly objective. A tree was a tree, a rock was a rock, and you were a distinct entity, separate from the world you observed. This was a worldview of separation, a universe of individual parts interacting according to immutable rules. It gave us a sense of control, of mastery over the material world. It fueled the Industrial Revolution and built the modern world. But this solid ground, this bedrock of classical certainty, was about to fracture in the most spectacular way imaginable. As the 19th century gave way to the 20th, physicists began to probe the very heart of matter, and the strange new world they found there defied all classical logic. The first whispers of a revolution came from the study of light and heat, where the neat equations of Newton began to fail. Scientists like Max Planck discovered that energy wasn't a continuous flow, but came in discrete tiny packets he called quanta. It was a radical idea, a crack in the smooth facade of the classical universe. But quantum physics revealed that at the deepest level, particles exist as energy, not solid matter, challenging everything we thought we knew. The fundamental building blocks of our reality weren't tiny, solid billiard balls. Instead, they were ephemeral, ghost-like entities that behaved as both particles and waves simultaneously. The solid chair you're sitting on, the hand in front of your face, when viewed at the subatomic level, dissolves into a shimmering, vibrating dance of energy fields and probability clouds. The very concept of solidness became an illusion, a trick of perception at our macro scale. The universe was not a machine made of parts, it was a symphony of vibrating energy. This new quantum realm was governed by principles that seemed to border on magic. The principle of superposition shows that particles can exist in multiple states simultaneously, completely contradicting classical intuition. Imagine a spinning coin. In our world, it must land on either heads or tails. But in the quantum world, an electron can be spinning both clockwise and counterclockwise at the very same time. It exists in a haze of all its possible states, a realm of pure potentiality. It is only when we interact with it, when we perform a measurement, that it is forced to choose one single state to manifest in our reality. The famous thought experiment of Schrödinger's cat illustrates this bizarre truth. A cat in a box, its fate tied to a random quantum event, is considered both alive and dead until the box is opened. The act of observation doesn't just reveal the state of the cat, it. This leads us to an even more profound revelation, one that shakes the very foundation of objective reality. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle reveals that observation itself shapes reality. Without observation, there is only potential. This isn't a limitation of our instruments, it is a fundamental property of the universe itself. You cannot simultaneously know with perfect accuracy both the position and the momentum of a particle. The more precisely you measure one, the less precisely you know the other. Why? Because the act of measuring, of shining a light, of interacting with the particle, inevitably disturbs it, changing its state. The observer is not a passive spectator watching the cosmic drama unfold. The observer is an active participant, a co-creator. Before an observer intervenes, a particle is a wave of probability spread out across space and time. It has no definite location. It is everywhere and nowhere. The moment of observation collapses this wave of potential into a single concrete point in space-time. Consciousness, it seems, is the catalyst that turns possibility into actuality. The universe, it turns out, waits to be seen. Perhaps the most mind-bending discovery of all is quantum entanglement. When two particles are created together, they can become entangled, linked in a mysterious and intimate way. Their fates become intertwined, no matter how vast the distance separating them. If you measure a property of one particle, say its spin, you instantly know the corresponding property of its partner, even if that partner is on the other side of the galaxy. This information appears to travel faster than the speed of light, defying our classical understanding of space and time. What does this mean? It means that on a fundamental level, there is no true separation. The idea that two particles are separate is an illusion. They are part of a single, unified system, an indivisible whole. This discovery shatters the Newtonian worldview of a universe made of separate parts. Instead, it paints a picture of a cosmos that is a deeply interconnected, holistic network. For millennia, mystics and sages from spiritual traditions across the globe have spoken of a fundamental unity, a cosmic consciousness that underlies all of existence. They have taught that the separation we perceive between ourselves and the world is an illusion, a veil of Maya. In the language of the East, they spoke of Brahman, the ultimate reality, or the Tao, the formless source from which all things arise. Quantum physics, in its own language of mathematics and experiment, is now echoing these ancient truths. The concept of an interconnected universe, as demonstrated by entanglement, resonates deeply with the spiritual teaching of oneness. The idea that consciousness collapses potential into reality, as suggested by the observer effect, mirrors the spiritual principle that our focus and intention shape our experience. The quantum field, a vibrant, formless sea of energy from which all particles emerge, sounds remarkably like the descriptions of Source or the mind of God found in mystical texts. We are being invited to see the world and ourselves in a completely new light. If the universe is not a collection of separate objects, but a single, unified field of energy and information, then we are not separate from it. We are expressions of it. We are woven from the very fabric of the cosmos. Every atom in our bodies was forged in the heart of a distant star, and at the quantum level, those atoms are inseparable from the universal field. This understanding has the power to transform our lives. If separation is an illusion, then empathy and compassion are not just noble sentiments, they are logical responses to the true nature of reality. An act of kindness to another is, in a very real sense, an act of kindness to ourselves. If our observation helps create reality from a field of infinite potential, then what reality are we choosing to create with our thoughts, our beliefs, and our attention? Are we focusing on separation, lack, and fear, thereby crystallizing that reality? Or can we learn to focus on unity, abundance, and love, and in doing so call forth a different world? The journey from Newton's clockwork universe to the participatory cosmos of quantum physics is more than just a scientific revolution. It is a spiritual awakening for humanity. The old story of separation has led to conflict, exploitation, and a sense of alienation from nature and from each other. It has taught us that we are insignificant cogs in a cold, meaningless machine. The new story, the quantum story, tells us something radically different. It tells us that the universe is alive, intelligent, and interconnected. It tells us that we are powerful creators, intimately involved in the continuous unfolding of reality. We are not merely observers of the universe, we are the universe observing itself. We are not cogs in a machine. We are the artists, and the universe is our canvas. Embracing this profound truth is the key to unlocking our highest potential and co-creating a future worthy of our cosmic origins. Consciousness itself can be interpreted as a form of energy, operating within the same quantum framework that governs matter. Our thoughts and awareness are not passive reflections, but active shapers of reality, bridging the material and mental worlds. Quantum entanglement suggests our traditional distinctions between subjective and objective reality are essentially arbitrary. What we interpret as separate entities are actually parts of a complex network based on mutual dependence. In the grand theatre of existence, we are taught to see life and death as the ultimate beginning and the absolute end. A curtain rises, a curtain falls. But what if this perception, this stark duality, is merely a story we tell ourselves, a narrative constrained by the limits of our everyday senses? Let us turn to the most fundamental laws of the universe, to the strange and luminous realm of quantum physics, for a different, more expansive perspective. Here, we encounter a principle so profound, so unyielding, that it reshapes our entire understanding of finality. The first law of thermodynamics, the law of conservation of energy, states with unwavering certainty that quantum physics suggests that energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transformed. It changes form, it shifts, it flows from potential to kinetic, from chemical to thermal, but it never ever ceases to be. This single, elegant truth, born from the rigorous mathematics of physics, throws a gauntlet down to our most deeply ingrained beliefs about mortality. This challenges our traditional view of death, not as a poetic metaphor, but as a scientific starting point for a new inquiry. If the very essence of our being, the electrical impulses that carry our thoughts, the chemical reactions that power our cells, if all of this is fundamentally energy, then where does it go when the heart stops beating? The laws of physics demand an answer. They compel us to look beyond the veil of biology and consider a reality where the end is not a termination, but a metamorphosis. Continued. On the most immediate, tangible level, we can witness this transformation playing out in the magnificent cyclical ballet of the natural world. The energy of a deceased organism doesn't disappear, but transforms, returning to the ecosystem's energy flow. Consider the fallen giant of the forest. To our eyes, its collapse is an ending, a moment of decay. But to the universe, it is a monumental transfer of stored solar energy. An entire community of life, the great recyclers, goes to work. Microbes, fungi with their vast underground networks, and a host of unseen architects of life diligently unlock the complex chemical bonds, releasing the stored energy and nutrients back into the soil. This is not a loss. It is a redistribution. It is a sacred act of giving back to the system that provided life. The energy that once animated that single tree is now taken up by the roots of 1,000 saplings and becomes sustenance for the mycelial web that connects the entire forest. The energy that constituted a part of one becomes a part of all in the grand interconnected web of life. This physical cycle is a beautiful and humbling truth. But quantum mechanics invites us to ponder an even deeper transformation. What of the more subtle energies? the complex informational patterns encoded in our neural networks, the unique quantum signature of our consciousness. Does this information also undergo a transformation, returning to a cosmic reservoir of potential? To explore this, we must venture deeper into the strange and wondrous heart of quantum reality, to a concept that shatters our classical intuition: wave-particle duality. At the subatomic level, the fundamental building blocks of our world refuse to be pigeonholed. An electron can behave as a solid, localized particle when we measure it, a tiny, definite point in space and time. Yet when unobserved, it exists as a wave of pure potential, a smear of probability spread across all possible outcomes. It is both, and it is neither, until the act of observation collapses the wave and forces it to choose a single state. Now let us dare to apply this revolutionary idea to ourselves. We experience ourselves as particles, solid, separate, defined by the boundaries of our skin. But what if this is only the measured state? What if, at our most fundamental level, our essence is also a wave? A non-local field of information and consciousness temporarily focused into the biological form we call a body. This mind-bending principle of wave-particle duality suggests our essential nature extends beyond measurable dimensions. It hints that who we truly are is not confined to the physical vessel. Could this be what spirituality, across millennia and cultures, has attempted to describe with a single resonant word: the soul? Is the soul not some ghostly appendage, but the unobserved, wave-like state of our being, a field of potential that precedes our birth and persists after the dissolution of our particle form? It's a staggering thought, that our physical life is but a momentary crystallization of a far vaster, more ethereal and timeless reality. This leads us to the final and perhaps most profound piece of this cosmic puzzle: the transformation of energy and consciousness. Across cultures, spiritual traditions have described the soul's journey as a return to source, a merging with the infinite. Quantum physics, too, suggests that nothing is ever truly lost, only changed, only reimagined in a new form. The boundaries between life and death, self and universe, are not as rigid as they seem. In this light, the end is not an erasure but a transition, a doorway to new possibility. Now let us turn to the power that lies within each of us, the ability to shape reality through intention and conscious creation. The universe, at its deepest level, is a field of infinite potential. Our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are not just fleeting experiences. They are energetic patterns that interact with this quantum field. When we focus our intention, we collapse possibility into actuality. This is the essence of manifestation. Manifestation is not wishful thinking. It's a conscious process of aligning your inner world with the reality you wish to experience. Begin by setting a clear intention. Visualize your goal as if it is already real. Feel the emotions of gratitude and joy as if your desire has already manifested. Take inspired action, trusting that the universe responds to your focused energy. As quantum theory suggests, the observer shapes the outcome. In the same way, your attention and belief shape your life. You are not a passive participant in the story of existence. You are a creator, empowered to bring forth new realities from the infinite field of possibility. The journey of life and death, of energy transforming and returning, is also the journey of your own becoming. Embrace your power to manifest and watch as the universe unfolds in response to your conscious creation. In many spiritual traditions, God is identified with consciousness itself, the ultimate source of awareness and existence. From Hinduism's Brahman to Christian mysticism, the divine is seen as pure consciousness permeating all reality. Max Planck argued that consciousness is not a byproduct of physical processes, but the very foundation of existence. This view reveals consciousness not as isolated phenomenon, but as an integral part of reality's fabric. From what we've seen, the principle "energy is everything" extends to our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions. Our awareness, attitude, and focus can greatly shape the outcomes of physical manifestations. Scientific research in this area holds the promise of ever new insights into the relationship between mind and matter. Through these discoveries, we gain deeper understanding of the mysteries of existence and our place in the universe.